Say I if you've ever not finished a reading goal that you set out for yourself. I. Something to remember when it comes to reading is actually you and I are always reading. We're reading advertisements, we're on our phone, we're reading texts, we're reading emails. So because of all those things, the question really isn't, are we reading? The question is, how do I begin to build a habit of reading things that are going to build my life? If you're ready to start creating a habit of intentional reading, then you need to watch this whole video because I'm going to share a few things that helped me in my life. I went from reading no books at all to actually purchasing some books, enjoying those books, and finishing them all to the end. The journey to becoming a reader and having healthy reading habits is easier than you think. Hey everybody, Jordan here. Thanks so much for tuning in again to the I Want to Be a Reader series. For years, I wanted to become a reader. I knew people that were readers and they were sharing with me what they learned and I just couldn't figure out a way to get it. I would start these kind of reading plans. I would download them. I would listen to everybody of how you can read 100 books in a year. And for some reason, it just really didn't work for me. Truth be told, I really made some decisions that constantly slowed my momentum down. And I always ended up not finishing the goal I had set out for, or maybe not even finishing the book. But thankfully, over time, I stumbled into some practices that helped me actually build a healthy habit of reading. It wasn't just downloading something. These were like genuine things that I had to shift around. And because of those things, I actually had a habit of reading that has stayed with me ever since. And I want to share those with you. If you're ready to become a reader and establish some healthy reading habits, here we go. Okay, normally I wouldn't do this, but the first thing I'm going to share is what I think is the most important on this list. And the first way that you can start to cultivate a healthy habit for reading is to set aside time. We live in a crazy world, and we live in a world that is go, go, go. And then we also get frustrated when we don't have time to do the things that we want to do, like reading. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you want to be a reader, much like I did. And the way that you can establish having a healthy habit of reading is to set aside time in your day or in your week specifically for reading. Think about it. The only way for this to work is to actually disconnect from everything else and set aside time to read. You're not going to be fully engaged in a book if you're reading and also doing something else at the same time. This is a time that you need to not violate, meaning if you keep a calendar, whether on your phone or a paper calendar, write it in. Make sure that your schedule allows for you to begin to cultivate a habit for reading. Trust me, it's going to benefit your life to set aside time for reading. There's all types of things you could be doing with your time. But the more conversations I've had and the more I've heard myself talk, when I say things like, I just don't have enough time, it actually allows me to assess how I actually spend my time. And for the most part, it's not that I don't have enough time. It's just not that I've set aside any. And if this is important to you and you want to actually grow and have a solid habit of reading, the first thing you have to do is set aside time, and you can't violate it. Have enough discipline to say, from this time to this time, whether it be every day or twice a week or once a week, I am going to read. And if you can stick to that for, I would say, a month, there's going to be a healthy habit growing in you for reading, and it's going to be something that stays with you for a long time. All right, the second thing I have to share with you, maybe a little controversial. I see a lot of videos on YouTube and other people saying opposite, but I would say if you want to grow a healthy habit for reading, get a paperback book. Now, I know we live in a day where you can get audiobooks and ebooks, but I believe that those types of ways of reading books actually contribute to the busyness of life. Where we're listening to the book as we're at the gym. I saw a great comment on somebody's YouTube video that said, never trust a person who's listening to a book at the gym. I love that. But you know what I mean? Like the idea of listening to a book as you drive is cool, but you're also driving. It's not necessarily a time for complete focus. Now, you may disagree. You may be one of those people as you drive and you're listening to a book, and that's fine. But for me and how it worked out in my life is when I set aside time and I got an actual paperback book, there was something more tangible about the experience. In another video, I talked about how you can have a growing heart for reading and a love for reading, and I think paperbacks really help because there's also a sense of accomplishment when it's over. It goes back on your shelf. Someone can see it and say, did you read that? And say, yes, here it is. You can borrow it. You kind of become a library. As people find out that you're reading, they want to read too. I think having a paperback book forces you in, unlike any other way, to really focus in on what you're reading, allows you to be more engaged in the material. And there's just something I think kind of special about having the book. It's different than having an ebook or an audiobook. And so what's worked for me, that's helped me kind of have a new way of reading and create a habit would be to get a paperback book. Okay, the third way I think that you can change something about your life that will cultivate a habit of reading is something I've said in a prior video before, but it's set your books out where you can see them. I know you're thinking like, this is not gonna help me read, or this is not gonna help me have a healthy habit of reading, but it will. It just simply puts that book that you're trying to read or the books that you've set out to read in front of you consistently. I think there's something special to having a space like this where the books you've read or the books you're going to read constantly are in your space and in your world. It's very often where I've started a book and maybe I've had a busy week that I come home and there it is. Right by my bed, I have a spot where I read some fiction books at night, and then right next to my chair in my living room, I have a book that I read in the morning, and they're just there. They're waiting for me. There's a space set aside where I can go and read. And so I would suggest to you to get those books out of the closet, out of the garage, and on a shelf or maybe next to your bed. And instead of spending those last few minutes on your phone, when you see the book, spend the last few minutes in a book and start to cultivate a habit for reading. So I know it sounds simple, but I bet you, set those books out for the next 30 days and watch what happens. The fourth thing you can do to help the habit for reading in your life is to keep a journal. Now this is a big step, but I think this really shows that you're not just reading flippantly or just to fill space, but you actually want to retain what you read, and we're going to talk about this in a later video. But keeping a journal with a book allows you to jot down what you've read and helps you remember. If you can do this and stick to it, it will dramatically change the way you read books and also the way you remember what you've read. For me in my own life, when I started to begin to journal after every chapter I read, man, it took more time. It also put a different type of emphasis on what I was reading. I wanted to not just read the book, but write down what I thought about it, what it moved in me. And when you make those types of decisions when reading, it becomes less of a thing that feels academic, maybe like it used to in our life, and it feels something that you're doing for yourself. And I think you'll begin to see yourself grow. Your brain will get more activity, I think, and it really just changes the whole temperature of the reading experience. This is one of my reading journals. What I would do after I read a chapter is I would just write a page. So each one of these is a page. These are my thoughts of what I thought about the book, what I thought about the chapter, if I liked it, if I didn't like it. Doesn't matter. I would just take the time to write it. So a great way to build a healthy habit for reading is to start keeping a journal. The last thing I'll say in this video as a tip for you to grow stronger in your reading habit is to set a reading goal. Now, don't overthink this, and please don't come up with some reading goal that's impossible. Let me just help you. If you're someone who wants to start reading and you don't read, then you shouldn't be picking a reading goal that has over like 3 to 5 books. In fact, just start with one. Pick a month that you want to read a book and see how it goes. You're going to find videos all over YouTube and all over the internet saying 100 goal and 50 reading book lists, and Bill Gates does this and Elon Musk does this. Who cares? You're none of those people, and neither am I. But let's set a goal that works for us. I think this would be a great place for you and I to connect. So leave in a comment your goal list for whenever it starts. Maybe it's 5 books, you can write 3 books. And if you're like big time, you can write 10 to 15 books. But leave a comment below, and I want to know what your goal is and when you're starting. That's it. Those are just 5 ways. And there's more ways, and we'll probably talk about them in the future. But I'm really excited for you. I truly believe that you can create a healthy habit for reading. But it starts with making space. It starts with thinking small, setting out a goal for yourself, and really taking some time to figure out which works for you. Even putting those books in front of you. I know that sounds silly, but trust me, it'll work. Again, I know if you're watching this video, it's because you want to do better in this area. And so over and over, I would say again to you, set aside time and don't violate it. Become a reader. And maybe the last thing I would say is celebrate your victory. So after you read your book or after you finish your goal, post it on Instagram, go on YouTube, make a video and say, I just read a book, and tag me in it. I will come like it. I will comment and say you're the best, because it's worth it, right? Just tell people, I just read this book. And if you like it, share it, because there's probably some other people just like you who want to read, but they don't know where to start. They don't know how to do it. Share what worked for you. Nothing in our world is telling us to slow down and pause, but there's something about getting a paperback book, finding a place in your residence, wherever it is you live, and making the space for reading. It brings a different level of peace, a different level of focus, and I know it'll benefit your life. Hey, it was so good to be with you. So glad you're reading. If you found any value in this video, make sure you click subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a comment about your reading goals. For more thoughts on reading or books, you can check out more videos on the I Want to Be a Reader series, or head over to jordanbean.com. I've talked about reading there, and I've reviewed tons of books. Until next time, see you later. Happy reading.